Amazing. Good to see everyone on this beautiful night, special week. Just mamish, we're in Chol Hamoed. Mama Rachel's yard site was yesterday, and Shlomo's yard site's on Thursday, Wednesday night, Thursday. Cheshvan, so many beautiful, beautiful tzaddikim. So a lot of love in the air, a lot of Ahavas Yisrael, love of Israel in the air. Zrat Hashem. Beautiful time to come together and learn Torah. Okay, B'Shem Kol Yisrael. By the way, that niggin, when it came down to Rav Shlomo, he said, that was a pretty good song, no? He went over to the guy next to him, it was pretty good. And he wasn't being arrogant. He was basically recognizing that he didn't make up that niggin, it was a gift from Hashem. It was mamash a gift from Hashem, so Hashem. Every simcha, simcha tov v'mal tov, is mamash a gift from Hashem. So we're going to dedicate our Torah to the protection of all of our chayalim, to seeing Yeshua's, seeing salvations in all of our lives. For the refuah shlema, if anyone who needs refuah shlema, shalom bayis, anyone who needs shalom bayis, children for anyone who needs children, and zivug for anyone who needs a zivug. Bezrat Hashem. I want to thank our sponsor for his kind donation, and Yiboneh, as always, for allowing us to come together and learn Torah. Bezrat Hashem. So we're continuing our journeys in Tefila, and we are up to the beautiful Tefila of Adon Olam. We're going to go deep into the Tefila of Adon Olam. I'll start with a funny vignette, a funny story. So I'll reveal a secret to you guys. When I was a kid, from age, I think 6 until like 15, I was the Adon Olam boy. Okay? That was my job. Everybody in shul knew me. It was actually a tough job. It wasn't just Adon Olam, for the record. I had to do Shiur Shel Yom, Aleinu, Adam Zmiros, and Adon Olam. Okay? So it was like a big shul, Avenue and Jewish Center. Shout out. And anyways, so by the time I was like 11, 12, I was kind of getting bored of just doing the same niggin every time. I was already a vet, you know? So I started experimenting and doing different niggins. Every time I pick like a different niggin. And even that, after a while, I got a little like bored. So one time, I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I was in like a really daring mood. So it was Adon Olam, and the day before I heard like what's his name? I'm free, free falling. You guys know, it's a niggin. And I was it got in my head. And then just like, I got up there and out of nowhere, I just started singing, Adon Olam, Asher Malach. And like nobody picked up. This is like a huge shul with like hunt and like, everyone's like, what's he doing? Like, it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. But it was, I learned from there that you can hit rock bottom. And it's only up from there. It's only up from there. Anyways, it's just a short memory of Adon Olam. So Adon Olam, as we all know, it's a song that many shuls sing at the end of the service. Throughout all the world, there's many, many people who sing this to this day. In the beginning of the service, many of us sing it. It's the first song we sing. The end of the service, sorry? Tom Petty. Oh, there we go. Heartbreakers. Yeah, he broke my heart that day. I remember I traveled in Papua. I went some traveling around the world at some point in my life with like lost tribes, and there was like this tribe from Papua that I'm still very connected to. We're probably going to send this shiur to them, and they knew the whole Adon Olam. Beautiful song. If you guys want, I'll send you. I have a YouTube video online of me singing this beautiful niggin of Adon Olam with the Papuan Chevra in Papua, near New Guinea, not New Guinea. And they were actually originally part of a church, and then they went to Judaism. So they all have amazing voices. And they sing Adon Olam every service to this day, and they love it. And Adon Olam, when you're singing those beautiful words, your mom is connected to all the Jews throughout the world. And not only that, but you're connecting to all the Jews who have been singing Adon Olam throughout so much of Jewish history. So when did Adon Olam begin? We have edus from the 14th century. We know that people were singing this at the end of davening, or it was found in Siddurs. It was some part of the prayer ceremonies already at least 700 years ago. But when did the prayer originate? So the truth is, we don't know. There's a lot of different theories. We don't have absolute knowledge or proof. Some, if you look on Wikipedia, the most popular theory is Ibn Gabirol. Solomon Shlomo Ibn Gabirol. Okay, also known as the street between Kakal and Ramban Street, so I walk down it all the time. But even before the street, he was a famous poet in the, I think, 11th century in Spain. I think he also is attributed with a lot of other poems that we know he actually did write for sure, maybe on Zmiros, if I'm not mistaken, and a few other important poems. Very interesting guy. Wrote holy poetry, also wrote secular poetry and plays and all sorts of interesting things. So it maybe was written by him. Some scholars think it was by him. Others say it goes back to the Gaonim, to Rav Shiur Gaon, or some other Gaon. And that's like in the 8th century. And maybe some found said it goes back to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. I read one theory. And the most interesting theory I actually found in my house a book all dedicated to Adon Olam that my wife happens to own. It's actually a novel. It's all about how the secrets of all of Judaism are in Adon Olam. It's called Adon Olam by an Or Sameach rabbi. And in that book, I found the theory written by a Sefer Shar HaRachamim by Rav Shimshon of Plotsk, where it was revealed to him that the Anshe Knesset Hagdola themselves, 2,500 years ago, actually are the authors of the Adon Olam. And indeed, it has many of the secrets of Judaism written in this beautiful prayer. Pretty amazing. So in our short time, I don't know if we'll be able to get to all the secrets of Judaism, but we'll do our best. Okay? And as we'll see, it is indeed a very deep song. A lot of big concepts to think about. Probably when we're just waking up early in the morning, that's we're a little groggy. It's a little hard to think about all these things. Maybe that's why we put it at the end of davening. Then we're a little bit more up. It's like some people actually say it's like a chiasmic structure. You begin your day with Adon Olam, and many people end the services. Some people end their day with Adon Olam. It's in the Kriyas Shema, so it's like you begin and you end it at the same time. Some people have another chiastic structure. They don't say it in the beginning. They don't say it at the end. Okay, there's different customs, but whatever your custom is, Adon Olam is a powerful prayer, and we're gonna try to unravel what it's all about. So I want to start with the first following question: why do we say it at Shacharis? I mean, the custom is dafka to start out our Tefila session, at least in many communities, with Adon Olam. What does Adon Olam have to do with the beginning of our day? Any theories linking Adon Olam with the beginning of our day? So I'll be honest, you guys haven't gone through the Tefila yet. If you went through the Tefila, then you'll be able to have a theory. I cheated. I prepared this Shiur beforehand. So I'll give you 3 beautiful theories as to why we say it at the beginning of the day, and then we're going to start going through the words of the prayer. Okay? Theory number 1, because we say in the Tefila, Be'et Ishan ve'a'ira, that when I go to bed and when I wake up, I bring the oneness of Hashem into my life, and I bring my bitachon and Hashem into my life. So when I go to bed, that's what we were referring to before, saying Adon Olam before I go to sleep. Ve'a'ira, and when I wake up means, right, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I should do is say Adon Olam. Okay, so that's, Rav Shlomo Aviner's Sefer suggested that, seemed very reasonable to me. Second theory, the Shulchan Aruch writes, the 5th siman in the Shulchan Aruch, very short and very important siman. He reminds us when we say God's name, we're supposed to have specific kavanot, specific intentions. Okay? What are we supposed to think of when we say Yud Kei Vav Kei? We're supposed to think? I like it. But that's not what the Shulchan Aruch says. Very good, but it's not. Shulchan Aruch says something actually different. He says, Yud Kei Vav Kei, if you go back to the burning bush, when God reveals himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, and you understand Rashi's interpretation there, he basically is saying, I was, I am, and I will be. That's Ekia. And that's what we're supposed to think every time that we say the word Elokim, if I'm not mistaken. When you say Hashem's name, that's in an ideal world that we should have that in mind. But in the minimal level, I have to say Adon, which means God is my personal master. But ideally that he is the master of everything, and that he was, is, and will. Okay, he's a master of Adon HaKol, is the minimal level. And the bonus is, if you can think, he is, he was, and he always will be. He's beyond time. Okay, that's what the show. Everything time you say God's name, in an ideal world, we should have both those intentions. He's the master of everything, the meaning of Adonai, and Yud Kei Vav Kei, the way it's written, we should ideally also have that intention too. Some, by the way, write that that's a lot to think every time I'm saying God's name. So you should try to have that in mind the first time you say it, and then have in mind that my intention every single time I say God's name is like I had this first time. Okay? Halachically, the time that we have to have this in mind is when we say Shema. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The Shulchan Aruch says then we really have to have these intentions in mind. All the rest of the time, if it's too much to remember, just have in mind the simple meaning of the word Adonai, that he's the master, my master, master of the world. Okay? Now there's a lot to remember. So the Adon Olam is there to remind us of some of these holy intentions. We're going to go through Adon Olam. We're going to see that it's defining Hashem. It's who is Hashem. So before we start saying God's name throughout our day, we have to define who is God so that we can have the proper intentions throughout our davenings. You with me? Okay, so explanation I'm going to do, why do we say Adon Olam? Especially, and why do we say it right away? So that when we say God's name, the rest of the day, we'll have, the rest of our davening, we'll have the proper intentions. Again, I think a very good explanation, and that alone is already something to take out of why we say Adon Olam every day. The third explanation is my favorite one. And in fact, the story goes that there was a Talmud of the Gra who wrote a new Sefer on the Siddur. Everybody, like to this day, every rabbi has to write their commentary on the Siddur. All right? So he wrote a new Siddur, and he comes to the Gra, who didn't have much free time. Right? He never wasted any moment. And he presented him with this book. And the Gra saw the Chiddush I'm about to present to you guys. He says, for this alone, this book is worth publishing. For this Chiddush that I'm about to present to you guys. So it must be a pretty good Chiddush, yeah? By the way, sometimes when rabbis say, wow, for this alone, they're basically saying, okay, I don't really have time to read this whole book, so shkoyach, it looks good, but like, can I go back to my daily learning? But I'm sure that wasn't the Gra's intention here. The Gra was sincere. For this alone, this book should be published. So this is the chiddush that was brought down in the book. Who was the first person to call God Adonai, my personal master? Anybody know? Anybody remember? Who's the first guy? Oh, I would have thought Adam Rishon, right? Turns out it's not true. Do a Bar Ilan search. You're never going to find Adam actually refer to God as Adonai. Adam Rishon does not refer to God in that particular adjective. Okay? What about, who's the next guy we might guess? Oh, but before him, Noah. Noah also did not refer to God as my Adonai. So the Gemara in Brachos, Daf Zayin Amir Bet, Amar of Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's coming from the Rashbi. It must be something very holy. Miyom Shabar Kadosh Baruch Hu Olam Lo Yadam Shakar Kadosh Baruch Hu Adam. Nobody called God Adam. Nobody called God Adon. Sheba Avraham Ukra Adon. Until Avram called him an Adon. Shenemar Veyomer Adoni Adonai Elohim Ba'meida Ki Yirashena. Last week's Parshas Lech Lecha. God, my master, how will I know that I will inherit the land? He's the first time. That's the first time that someone actually refers to God as Adonai, as my master. Okay? That's what the Gemara points out. Actually, it's interesting. This week's Parsha also. How does the Parsha start out? Parshas Vayera. When Avram Avinu, according to Rashi, gives two interpretations. And he says, Adoni, my master. Either Adoni is referring to the angels, or the head angel, right? Michael. Or the second interpretation of Rashi is he's talking to God. He's saying, God, wait. I got to go schmooze with these angel guys and do hachnasas orchim. So you just hold on. Because God was visiting him, doing his bikur cholim. So he says, hold on, God. My master. I got to go chill with these angel dudes. Right? Gadol hachnasas orchim mikabalas hashchina. Right? And he refers to God as Adonai. Okay, we'll get back to that. Fine. So the Gemara says Avram's the first person to refer to God as Adonai. What is the Gemara really trying to say when it says that Avram is the first person that refers to God as Adon Sheli, as my master? What's the deeper meaning behind that? So the explanation is like this, I think. This is at least Rav Schwab's explanation. It says, Adam didn't look at God as if God is my personal master. Adam looked at God like he was a policeman. He's that big guy in the heavens. And he tells you, don't eat that, and don't eat that, and don't do that. And he's watching over you to make sure you don't mess up. And that was a fundamental flaw. Because he didn't realize, what's the first mitzvah? Eat. Enjoy the world. I love you so much. But just one thing, don't eat this one little fruit. You got to have some borders in life. But he didn't understand. He put the stress on the don't. That's all he was able to. So, or at least that's the way Chava saw it. That's the way the snake framed it. So he didn't get to the higher level of having a personal relationship with Hashem. At least not at that point. Noah, it's the same thing. He listens to God. He's a servant of God. He's a tzaddik. Don't get me wrong. But he doesn't have a personal relationship with God to the extent that he never questions God. God tells him to build the ark. He builds the ark. Yes, he's a yes man. But he doesn't even have a hava man. He doesn't even think that he can ask a question. Hey, maybe God doesn't actually want to destroy the world. So if God told him to do it, that's his way he relates to God. Okay, I'll do it. I'm not going. He's the commander. Kenem fakid. That's it. And that was a fundamental mistake. He thinks that God is only a commander and not realizing that you can have a personal relationship with Hashem. You can ask questions. And that's Adam's chiddush. Avram, who's the tikkun of Adam. Maybe that's why I keep making that mistake. Avram, according to the Kabbalah, is the Gilgul of Adam Rishon. He's fixing that relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, of course he has respect for Kadosh Baruch Hu. Of course, when he is his commander, when God says, go, he goes. Right? What's the biggest proof that he has that respect for God? What story demonstrates his ultimate respect for God, even if it's really, really hard? The Akedah. All right? There's no more greater challenge than that. He's able to say every part of him doesn't want to do it, but he does it anyway because he understands God's the commander. But he's not just a commander. He's also someone you can ask questions to. You can have a personal relationship with. Right? We see this in the story of Stom. We questions God. Shofet kol haaretz. Right? How could it be? Doesn't make any sense. He's able to read between the lines and know when God is saying, this is it, don't ask any questions, and when there's some wiggle room here, or maybe he even wants you to challenge him. So it says Rav Schwab, in Rav Schwab on prayer, that sometimes a servant is in some ways even closer than a son. A servant and a master relationship. Because a son, there's deep relationship there, but he doesn't a servant, because he's on a much lower level than the master feels uninhibited. He could just put up his feet and schmooze with him about anything, and he can go into places that even a regular person, that even no one else can come to. There's no borders, so to speak, with a trusted servant. So Avram was that trusted servant, the Eved, and he relates to Hashem as Adon. He's the master, of course. There's respect there. But there's also a closeness there. Right? And that's why we start our Tefila every day, Adon Olam, with the word Adon. Adon, because Avram referred to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Adon. And Avram's reminding us that we have to have respect for God, but we also have this personal relationship with Hashem. Hu Keli, Achai Goali. Kel, power, but also he's my personal God. I have a personal relationship with Hashem. And that's why we start off Adon Olam. By the way, who's Matakin Shacharis? Who established Shacharis? Avram. It's not a coincidence. It's hashtag Abraham, so we start our Tefila with Adon Olam. Maybe Avram Avinu himself wrote Adon Olam. I don't know. I wasn't there. But anyway, so that alone is worth coming to this Shiur tonight, right? Where that beautiful insight of Rav Schwab / the student of the Vilna Gaon. Okay. Gewalt. Let's go through some of the words together of the Adon Olam and see if what else we can unravel in this gorgeous Tefila. And at the end, if we're good boys and girls, we can choose our tune. I know everyone has their favorite Adon Olam tune, so we'll let you guys decide which one you want to sing. Okay? This one doesn't have it in it. Funny. No, there it is. Okay, good. I'm just going to sing the classic. Okay. Adon Olam Asher Malach. Master of the world. Interesting. I probably would have phrased it if I was writing it. Adon Ha'olam. Master of the world. Instead it says Adon Olam. Master of world. Sorry? All worlds. Well, there I would say Adon Olamot, no? So it's interesting. Olam. So normally the way we translate Adon Olam is the master of the world, right? Some theorize what else can Olam mean? Baruch Hashem li'olam li'olam. Forever. Time. Some theorize the master of time. The master of forever. And it's not just that he's the master of the world, but he's creator of time. Pretty cool. Pretty deep. Interesting. Okay? Speaking of deep, Olam. I forgot to mention this. The Baal HaSulam writes that the secrets of all of Torah are embedded in the Adon Olam. The Rav Ashlag, the Baal HaSulam. So a lot of deep secrets. Adon Olam. Olam is from a Lashon. What does Olam also mean in Hebrew? It's related to the word Ne'elam. Same root. Ayin Lamed Mem. What does that mean? Hidden. Why do we connect world to hidden? Who's hidden in the world? Hashem. Exactly. Kabbalistically speaking, we're all Kabbalists, of course. We all know that God created the world according to the Rizal, and then he constricts himself, and he hides himself. He creates a world in order to hide himself. He actually creates, as we'll speak about, 4 worlds. Okay? And we are the most physical manifestation of the world, which God is hiding in. He's playing hide and go seek. And what is our mission in life? To find him. He's hiding, and we're supposed to find him. How do we find him? We search for him. How do we search for him? We do mitzvahs. And we look for him, and we yearn for him. And hopefully we reveal him, and reveal him to the world. That's the mission of life. Because he could have just revealed himself, but that's no fun. It's not a fun hide and go seek. If so he hides himself. It's also not fun. That used to happen to me. We play hide and go seek. I'd go hide, and no one would search after me. I'd come back like 2 hours later, like my cousins were playing a different game. So traumatized. Anyways, so sometimes Hashem is just hiding, but like we're not even looking for him. Anyways, hope they're not watching. The point is, Adon Olam, God is hiding in the world, and we're supposed to hide him. Okay? Adon Olam, Asher Malach, who reigned. Interestingly enough, in every bracha, the halacha is you have to mention Baruch Atah Ad Hashem. He's my master, my personal God, but also Melech. A bracha has to mention the concept of Malchus, of kingship. So we're mentioning that God's the king. Again, the yin and the yang. Adon means personal relationship. What does Melech mean? King, but like we always say, a mamish king. Powerful. Melech. You have to be a little bit scared. Dominion, right? Think about the fact that every star you see is like much bigger than the sun. And in the sun, there's I don't know the stats, thousands of Earth that can fit in the sun. And every star has much bigger than, and there's billions and billions and billions of these stars, more stars than sand. So the world's really, really big. That's the point I'm saying. And God is the master of all of this. So you're supposed to feel the power of God. You're supposed to feel like, whoa. When you say the word Melech. Okay, Melech, Adon Olam Asher Malach, who reigned, B'terem Kol, before anything, Yitzir Nivra, before anything was created. So say that again. Master of the world, who reigned, who was the king over the world before anything was created. So again, when did God reign over the world? Before anything. Before there was time. Before time. God created time. That's already a pretty deep idea. Now ask me a question. God was the king over the world before the world was created, before anything was created.
Why what?
Before anything was created, the term kol yitzir nivra, before any creation was created, God was the king.
Yeah.
Ask me a good kasha.
King of what?
King of what? What's he the king of? But imagine I come to yeshiva today and I declare myself, but nobody comes to Shiur. It's happened. It's happened many times in my life, trust me. It's actually the best when nobody comes. The worst is when just one person comes. Anyways, and I say, I'm the king. Really? I'm the king of this empty building? Like, okay, you want to, sure, but like, what kind of king is it of if nothing's here? And at least here there's a building, but there's nothing. Derem kol yitzir nivra. So, what was he the king over?
Hashem was lonely.
Hashem was?
Was lonely.
Hashem was lonely.
He needed to have
And he needed to create something, exactly. But what was he the king over? We just said Asher Malach, he reigned. It's a good question, no? Maybe I just leave it. Sometimes Rav Shlomo's Rabbi used to say, you don't always have to have an answer for the question. Sometimes it's better just leave it as a good question, So there are answers. I looked in some of this form. There are some answers. I'd rather just leave it as a question. Food for thought. You're at a kiddush, you're bored, you can schmooze with this. Go to the next random guy, start schmoozing with that, it's a good question. So, Adon Olam Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra. Before anything, God was king. But then let's keep going. Le'it Nasa, at the time that he created, B'chefzo Kol, when he desired everything. Azai Melech, then King Shemonikra. His name was called. So when God created everything, then he was called king. By who? Who called him king? When God created everything, who called him king? Maybe it was a Malachim. Maybe. Could be. We talk about in the Piyutim how the kings, the angels in heaven are declaring the kingship of Hashem. Who else declares the king of God, kingship of Hashem? David Melech did that. Yeah. Us. That's what us humans are here for. That's what us Jews are here for. That's what all of Rosh Hashanah is about. To be Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the whole point. That's what we're doing every single day. We're declaring that God is the king. We're being Ol Malchus Shamayim. Every day we're saying, God is my king. I'm taking upon myself the yoke of heaven because he's my king. And I am serving. I bow to him. That's why we're here. So when God created the world, we were able to declare him king. Now the angels, they in a certain way declare God king. Yes, he's powerful. But the thing is, they kind of don't have much of a choice. First of all, they see up close how amazingly powerful he is. Second of all, like ants, they declare God king, but they don't really have much of a choice. They don't have free will. Who's the only creature that has free choice that can actually declare God the king? Us. So that's us. Azai melech shemonikra. Now that God has created the world, we can declare him king. And then we have our place in life. Then we feel good about ourselves. It might seem a little weird, like what? He's like up there, he needs a king? He needs that someone should call him a king? But it's no, he knows he created us. And our need is that we need a king over us. We need to declare as king. And I'm sure, I hope, and I'm sure that many of us experience moments in our life when all we're thinking is like God is the king. And it feels so good, right? Hopefully you've been, I don't know, I remember I was at Rosh Hashanah davening and everyone's just singing, hey, anai, 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 anai. And you have like hundreds of people singing at the top of their lungs these moments when Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and all I can think about is God's the king. I'm not thinking about anything else. And he feels so natural and good and pure. Because that's how our neshamas are built to be. That's when we feel plugged in. So Adai Melech Shemonikra. So when God created the world, he created, then we're here to declare him as king. Now let's get a little Kabbalistic for a moment, something really cool. Alluded in the last sentence we just said is actually the 4 different worlds that God created the world with according to their Rizal. Okay, let's find it. Asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra. Yitzir reminds us of the world of Yitzira, creation. Le'it nasa b'chev sakol azai melech shemonikra. Asher bara. Asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra. Nivra is the world of Bria. And then Le'es Nasa, the world of Asiya. Okay? So we got 3 out of 4. The 4th one is not explicitly mentioned. The Rizal says that even for anything, there's a world of Atzilus, where God takes from himself, it's the most spiritual world, and put the world into being. So that maybe is alluded to in before the world was created. In Adon Olam, Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra. So the Rizal points out that, in other words, in order for God to create the world, God is very, very spiritual. No, everything is really one of God. But in order for us to feel separate entities from God, he needs to create these barriers called universes, called worlds. And that way we can feel like we have existential meaning and we're separate from God. But in reality, we're all connected to God. Yeah? So this is alluded to in this first sentence of Adon Olam. Pretty cool, no? The deeper secrets of this, A, I don't know, and B, I don't know if I have permission to reveal, even if I did know. So you'll go to your to different Kabbalistic Shiur and another time. Okay, let's keep going. V'acharei kechlot hakol. So after everything is done, levado yimloch nora. Then he alone will reign supreme.
So you'll create again.
So the end of the world, once this whole show is over, it's just going to be God.
Create again.
Again, because God is everything. He created us. And then in the end, we're going to just go back to God. At least that's a simple way of reading this tefillah. That when it's all done, Mashiach and everything, the whole show, God's going to go back to just being God. Some read it a little differently. That Achrei Kichlot HaKol, actually, Rav Kook would extend as the lashon of klaya, which means yearning. After all beings yearn for God, then He alone will reign in the time of Mashiach, when it's v'nishkav Hashem levado, when God alone will reign supreme. So it's not talking about the end after the Messianic era, it's talking about the Messianic era, when God is supreme but over us. And according to that way of looking at it, we actually will never, the world will not end. We're here till the end with Hashem.
Or Hashem recreate.
Or maybe we end and then God does it again. We know there's a midrash which says that God is creating, He created many worlds and recreated many worlds before this world is created, and maybe we're just one of those in that process. Lots of big questions, so I guess it depends how you interpret it, where we're holding in the stages of God's. In general, in Judaism, we're not really too concerned about God and His plans. We're here to figure out us, humans, and how we can become the best people possible. That's what 99.9% of Torah and Halacha and Judaism is about. Here, we have one brief moment where we're talking a little bit about these big concepts of what's the bigger plan of God. Pretty deep. By the way, I think this is why some theorized that it was written in the Spanish era. A, because during that era, they were very big into these big philosophical questions that, the Rambam is dealing with. And B, because the meter, the way that the poetry lines up, is very common to the Spanish era. It rhymes very nicely. That's why all the songs fit very nicely to Adon Olam, because it has very nice rhyme. And a lot of the other song, like poetry, like biblical poetry, doesn't usually rhyme. So that's just a side point for the scholars amongst us. Okay, let's get back to the text. V'hu haya, v'hu hoveh, v'hu yeh, v'tifara. And He was, and He is, and He will be, as we alluded to. Yud K, Vav K. In other words, He's beyond time. He created time. This works very well with my theory that I shared before, that the whole point of Adon Olam is to help us have the right kavanah for when we say God's name. And we're also just defining who this God is, because if He's beyond time, then that's something that us humans can't really fathom. We've never lived in a world beyond time. But God is beyond time, apparently, which it shows us that we can't put Him in a box that we can understand. B'tifara, with glory. Tiferet, like the perfect harmony. Again, I don't really know the deeper secrets of what is implied in this word, B'tifara, but I remember learning that Tiferet is like the highest, beautiful pe'er, the highest level. Okay, let's keep going. Fu echad, ve'in sheni. And He's one, and not two. And there's not another one. So if there's not another one, because there's only one God, so why do we have to say Hu echad? Isn't that superfluous? Unless, what does Hu echad imply?
Only.
Sorry?
Only.
Only, what do you mean by only? Only.
The only one.
The only one. Whereas the Torah tells us in Dvarim, Ein od milvado. Not just in the sense that there's no other God, but rather in the deeper sense that we've been alluding to, that everything is God. Everything was God. Before there was anything, there was God. In the end of the day, it's only going to be God. And the truth is, even right now, don't tell anyone, but there is only God. Okay? We're all part of God. We are all a part of Hashem. That's panentheism. We are not God, but we're a part of Hashem. Ein od milvado. Okay? And this is alluded to Hu echad. Also, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. He is connected to all of us. And everything that happens is from His will. That's why we say everything is from the best, everything is good. Because ultimately, He's in charge. Hu echad. And echad, of course, is also gematria of, as we mentioned before, Ahava, love. He created the world with love, and everything is one and united with that ultimate plan of love. Yafeh. Hu echad, ve'ein sheni. Lahamshil lo, lahachbira. What does lahamshil lo mean? Like a mashal. There's no one to compare him to. Sometimes we fall into this trap of saying, I don't understand. If I were God, I would do like this. And how come God doesn't do like that? They're like, you're like a tiny, less than an ant trying to figure out a human. Like you can't fathom. Right? So we can't compare anything to God. We don't understand what God is. There's nothing to compare him to. There's nothing to connect to him at the end of the day. Okay? So a little bit before we start davening in the morning, we're like just blowing our mind a little bit and saying, whoa, we want to connect to Hashem, but let's also be honest, like we can't really, don't get too buddy-buddy as if we can really understand who Hashem is. Nothing to compare to. Bili reshit, bili tachlit. What does that mean? Without beginning, without end. Can you think of anything in the world that has no beginning and no end? I can't. Okay? So that's beyond imagination. Beyond, very philosophical, nothing, no beginning, no end. Vulo ha'oz v'hamisra. What does oz mean? Power, right? Strength. He is the creator of everything. So he is the power, the energy which is revitalizing the world. The hamisra, and the dominion. He rules over everything. He has control over everything. Like the pasuk, Oz v'hadar. Oz v'hadar. Levusha. He dons Oz. He's not really Oz. He created Oz. And he wears it. So we can understand a little bit what that is. Okay? V'hu keli. But even though he's so powerful, v'chai go'ali. What does keli mean? What's the chiddush here?
My God.
He's my God. El, we've discussed in the past, has a connotation of chesed. But usually what it really means is power. Tzidkacha kahare el. Your strength is like the mountains of strength. Elokim means powers. So he's very powerful. But he's not just in general powerful. He's my powerful God. With all this amazing power, I have a personal relationship with. He's my God. And it's an unbelievable gift that Hashem allows us to say that he's my personal God. Vu keli v'chai goali.
Redemption.
And my, again, redeemer. What does it mean to be a redeemer? It's one of those words, again, we throw it around a lot, but what does redemption mean? He saves me. Yafeh. So on one hand means I'm lost, I have no meaning in life, I'm about to be, destroyed, and he saves me. Goel, redeems me. And there are other words which means like Yeshua, salvation. So there's a specific connotation of Geula we've mentioned in the past. And there's a specific connotation in the Torah. What does Goel mean? So it could mean two things. First of all, it can mean the redeemer in the sense that you have land. You redeem it means to bring it back to its source. Okay? Because it was year after year sold to people who don't really have a connection to the land. I'm going to buy that land. Right? Like Boaz. I'm redeeming the land and I'm redeeming this woman. I'm taking it back to its root, to its essence. That's why it says in the Gemara that when you quote something in the source, I'm redeeming it. I'm bringing Geula to the world. I'm bringing it back to its source, the Gemara in Megillah says. Right? Every time I quote something, I'm bringing it back to its source. So God is my redeemer. Every day I get lost. I think I'm going to go check the Yiboneh YouTube, Rabbi posting Shiur. Somehow I end up watching the politics of this, and then that leads me to some TV show, and then that leads me to And then I don't know, my whole day, I'm lost, I'm gone, I don't know what I'm doing. And my main of like davening, I'm thinking about all sorts of random things, and then business, and then this guy's pressuring me, and then I don't know if I should. I get lost in our generation and my thoughts, right? We get lost. And what brings us back? Hashem. Hashem brings us back. Davening brings us back to our souls. Learning brings us back to our souls. Singing brings us back to our souls. And we go back and He redeems us and gives us meaning. He gives us a life with purpose, with meaning and connection to Him. So that's Geula. Right? That's why it says you have to connect Geula to Tefila. The whole goal of Tefila is to be redeemed, to go back, to redeem. That's what we're all yearning for, Geula. Geula means going back to our source, going back to our true selves, to our souls. Yeah? So Chai Goali, the life force of my redemption. In other words, when I'm going back to Geula, I'm Chaim, I'm really alive. When I'm not, says Bavavi Mishkan Evneh, when are you really alive? When I'm thinking about Hashem. When I'm conscious of Dveikus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. At any moment when my mind starts wandering into anything else, I'm not really alive at that moment. Only when I'm in a state of being aware of HaKadosh Baruch Hu am I really alive. Dveikus. That is the definition of Dveikus. It's a thought process. So that's V'chai Goali. V'tzur Chevli Be'eit Tzara. What does that mean? The rock of my Chevel. What does Chevel mean? So it could mean rope, or it could mean pangs, like the Chevlei Mashiach, or like a woman has birth pangs. So the rock, when I'm in pain, when I'm having birth pangs, what do I hold on to? Right? So, the wife is holding on to the birth lady or whatever. But what are we holding on to when we're in pain? We hold on to Hashem. He's our rock. Right? It's like, and the guy's running down the river and it's about to go on the waterfall, right? Like Simba in the movie. And then he holds on to the rock at the last second, and he's holding on to his last strength. So that's us. We're holding on to Hashem. V'tzur chevli, He's the rope that we're holding on to during the times of pain. And we all know that when things are good, Baruch Hashem, hopefully we all feel a deep relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But when do we generally often really need Hashem and really feel Hashem? When we're in those hard times. Right? All the hostages are talking about their stories now. Listen to their amazing stories. So many of them felt so close to Hashem during this terrible, terrible times. And they had nothing else but HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they got so close to Hashem. Some of them are saying they kind of miss in some ways, those times when they felt so close to Hashem because they needed Hashem so much. Yeah? So I definitely feel that sometimes. Like when in the army in these desperate, sad times or lonely times, and I had such a strong connection with Hashem at those times. And Hashem should bless us that we should feel the deep connection to Hashem even during the good times. That's the challenge of life. So we won't have to get back to those bad times. But in any case, He's our tzur chevli, like the double lashon. We're holding on to Hashem, the Beit Tzara, during those painful times. By the way, that's also why when the state of Israel, they're trying to find a phrase that could also just be a neutral phrase, but also refer to God. What did they refer to God as in the way that they wrote the proclamation for the state of Israel? Tzur Yisrael, the rock of Israel. Because every Yid who's saying Adon Olam knows that Tzur is Hashem. But technically it just means a rock. So it made everybody happy. Anyway, so God is our rock. He's our rock, lifts us above what we're our anchor. V'hu nisi umanosli. And He's how do you translate nisi?
Right down.
Very good. It's double language. One level, whenever we see nes in Chumash, it always means my flag, my banner. Okay? Throughout Chumash, for example, I think Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayiven Mizbeach, Vayikra Shmo Hashem Nisi. In Shmos Yud Zayin Tesvav. God is my flag, is my banner. In other words, what's my mission in life? What am I here for? To reveal God. He's my nes. He's my mission. Hu Nisi. That's what I'm here to do. I'm looking for opportunities to call out in the name of God, like Avram Avinu. and like Moshe Rabbeinu. I remember when I was, one summer, I was in Brooklyn for the summer, and my mom made me take a college course in Borough of Manhattan Community College. And it was like this English poetry course to get credits. And I was the only Jew there. In fact, I was the only religious person besides this other Arab lady. It was me and her, and then like all the rest of the chevra. And one time, I don't know why, they went on a tangent and they asked like, what is beauty? And I was inspired, and I wrote this like poem about how beauty is godliness. And like, I don't know why, I was the last guy to speak, and I like raised my hand. I was like, oh, I have a poem. I don't remember what I said. Something like godliness is beauty, beauty is godliness, or something like that, something very cheesy. And at the end, like they actually gave me a round of applause. It was very cute. And then I was like, wow, I held up God as my banner. Like I got to actually represent Hashem in the world. It's pretty cool. Back in BMCC, good times. Anyways, so that's it. That's what we're here to do. Who needs tea? On another level, what does it mean to be a nace? A miracle. God is my miracle. Right? Right?
God transcends miracles.
Life itself is a miracle. Life is a miracle, and God gave me life. And as long as we hold on to God, then we can see miracles. Right? That's why Rashi says that it wasn't really 318 servants who went to war with Avram. Rather, who was it? Eliezer. Right? What's Eliezer? Gematria 318. Says the Kli Yakar. Who did he really go to war with? He went with 318 guys. But what did he take with him? Eliezer. Belief in God as my helper. Even the most desperate times, even I'm fighting the 4 kings in the world, God is my salvation, and we can overcome anything. That's Am Yisrael right now. 2 years we're fighting, but we know at the end of the day it's only Hashem. He's who nisi, and we, Baruch Hashem, have been zochen in miracles that we never could have imagined. When you see everything as from Hashem, and when you go above your nature, that's a nes. And then Hashem reveals nisim. Hu nisi umanosli. What does it mean, manosli? He's my refuge. When things are down, I go to him. Rabbi Nachman says every day a person needs to find time to make God their refuge. In other words, you have to do hispodadus. Have a time. He says it could be under your covers. You go to bed. Could be in Shemona Esrei. But find a time every day to make Hashem your refuge, where it's just you and him, and you just schmooze with him about everything. Manosli. Menat kosi b'yom. He is the cup of my salvation. This is actually a pasuk from Tehillim that the author is quoting. We say, kosi revaya. God is my overflowing cup. What does it mean that God is my cup? I'm not really sure what it means. I was struggling with this. What does it mean do we drink God? Like, what does it mean that God's my cup? What does David Melech mean when we say, he's my cup?
A full cup.
Right, he's like, Menat kosi, he's my cup on the day I call. I guess like when you have that kiddush and you see your cup overflowing and you just feel really good because you're about to like enjoy. That's Hashem. He's giving me everything, and he gives me that feeling of like geschmack. I'm about to have kiddush. I don't know. That's what it means to me. Menat kosi b'yom. On the day I call out to him. The day I call out to him, he's my cup. I'm just going to finish up because our time's running low. Afkid ruchi. In his hand, I emplace my spirit. Be'eti shan va'ayira. When I go to bed and when I wake up. So when is that moment when I place my spirit to God? When I go to bed. Every night, I have to have trust that I'm going to wake up the next morning. And what really gives me that trust? Knowing that Hashem's watching over me, that Hashem's taking care of my soul. He's going to clean me out, my soul up, and bring it back to me. And he's going to take care of my soul and take it as a pikadon. He's going to take it as an entrustment. Okay, by the way, that's like, again, probably why we say Adon Olam before we go to bed. maybe it also alludes to the fact that when we're going to die, we're going to say Adon Olam. We're going to entrust our souls to God. And there were, sadly, the Crusader time period and other time periods, it seems whole shuls that died saying Adon Olam as their final words before they died al Kiddush Hashem. These beautiful words that we're singing today. V'im ruchi geviyati, and with my spirit, my body shall remain. Hashem li v'lo ira. God is with me, and I won't fear. Of course, who is that paraphrasing? I won't fear? David HaMelech. David HaMelech, who in that same kapitel of Tehillim Chaf Gimel says, Binat Tesa Yar Biseni, right? In every situation, God is with me. Gam Kelech V'Geit Salma, but even in the darkest times, Lo ira, I will not be scared. Hiata imadi, because you are with me. And that's exactly what all the Chatufim we're talking about, what all the soldiers are feeling, and hopefully all of us feel throughout our days, that no matter what situation we're in, Hashem is with us. And that's the spirit that the Adon Olam is trying to give us throughout our day, this feeling of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence within us wherever we go. So hopefully, B'ezrat Hashem, when we say this tefillah tonight or tomorrow, by the way, you don't only have to say it during davening, you could say it. There were people in challenging times that would sing this song, Biyado Afkid Ruchi, and would just say it over and over and over. And then I'm giving my life over to Hashem. I'm entrusting my life to Hashem. Hashem's in charge. And hopefully, Be'ezrat Hashem, these words will be meaningful. We will have bitachon in Hashem, and v'tein sachar labotchim, and God will reward us for our bitachon in Hashem, for our trust in Hashem, and we will see great merits. And evtach v'lo evchad. We will have trust, and we won't be scared of anything in our lives because Hashem is with us. Be'ezrat Hashem. So what niggun? Are you guys vibing? What should we end off with?
Yeah, we're done.
Should we just do the classic? We'll do the classic. If you guys want another one, we can do another one afterwards. Adon Olam Hashem Alam V'terem Gol Yitzir Nimra Le'et Nasa B'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemoni Kaveh Achareh Yichlot Hago Hay Levado Yimlach Nora Ve'u Haya Ve'u Ove Ve'u Yiyeh B'tifa Ahabehu Echad Ve'en Sheni Lehamtzilo Lehachbira Meli Reshit Meli Tachli Velo Haoz Vehami Ahabehu Keli V'chai go'ali v'tzor chavli v'yetzahara ve'unisi umanosli menat kosi b'yomek abeyado Afkid rugim v'yeti sham ne'ayira ve'im ruchi geviyati Hashem li v'lo ira. Kiddush.
Shir Shir Chadash,